a Playlist original.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another news episode of Back to the Blockbuster with your hosts, Gaius and Jackson. I think this is our second news episode of the new year 2020-2025, and a lot of good stuff came out over the last little bit. Some of this really new stuff that's got me excited to dive in. We did just record an episode. It is January the 23rd today when the Oscar nominations drop. So if you're listening to this and haven't checked that out and you guys are interested in catching that episode, feel free to find that. That should be dropped by now. But aside from that, we won't be covering any of that in this episode because there's still a lot of good stuff that happened over the last week or so. Starting off, I think with what I saw today that I'm most excited for is Robert Eggers' next project has already been announced. This isn't even
it's like TS2.
Yeah, well, he has The Night apparently, which is in development, and then he's got this next movie called Werewolf coming out, which is like all right up his alley. He's kind of pivoting from vampires with Nosferatu to werewolves. The only thing I'm not sure of is what one is slated to come out first.
So he has what was announced yesterday was the werewolf one, doing another movie with Focus Features. Not going to break that up. He's had a good run with Focus Features. Nosferatu is it's the highest grossing movie to date, 156.3 million worldwide, so why mess up a good thing? But he co-wrote Werewolf with the person he co-wrote The Northman with, and it's described as a werewolf horror movie set in 13th century England with dialogue true to the time period, and it's going to open Christmas Day 2026. I mean, I feel like we can have an every other year Christmas Day Robert Eggers movie.
I'm totally okay with that, and that will set him on pace to do 3 movies in 6 years, which is awesome output.
Yeah.
Really.
Now, here's the other one that was surprised me today because I didn't even know that he was up for this. He is also going to write and direct a sequel to Labyrinth for TriStar Pictures.
I don't know much about Labyrinth. What's that all about?
So Labyrinth is a musical fantasy starring a young Jennifer Connelly. I think it's one of her first movies, and the late David Bowie, and it follows Jennifer Connelly's 6-year-old character Sarah as she navigates a vast otherworldly maze to rescue her infant brother Toby, whom she inadvertently wished away to the realm of Goblin King Jareth, played by Bowie. Throughout her journey, Sarah encounters a variety of magical creatures and challenges that test her resolve and maturity. This is a big Jim Henson movie. It has a lot of like Muppet characters in it. It kind of was like a product of its time. It didn't actually do that well in theaters when it came out, but it's become a big cult classic since then. And all we know about it is that it's going to be a sequel to the movie, and also going to be co-written by his Northman co-writer, who's also doing Werewolf. So he's busy, which is good, I guess. I don't think he has any interest in making like a modern day movie.
No, and that's fine with me.
Really.
He loves his history.
But I mean, it seems like something he'd be doing back to back, I guess. As like for Christmas 2026, I guess you would still need to get like a good amount of like that werewolf movie done now, and then there's post-production. So that would have to start shooting sometime this year, and then however long post would be, and then wherever he'll fit in Labyrinth. I just didn't know that he was up for a sequel to Labyrinth, so that was a surprise today. I know you had mentioned something that was in development by him,
right?
That you were excited for. Yeah,
so, but I'm not seeing any of that on his IMDb page. But
maybe got shifted to.
I think there's a script that's done for it, so at least there's something there. That's the last intel I'm acting on. But anyway, it's nice that he's got stuff planned in advance. But I think the werewolf movie of his sounds great. Keep him in the horror genre. I think that's fantastic news. So I was really hyped when I read that today.
Yeah, so, and there are some complaints by some of the film snob people. They're like, "Oh, is this all he can do? Does he only really want to do like these kind of artsy fartsy period?"
Oh my god, pieces? People complain about anything.
I know, and it's just like you make a movie.
Yeah,
I don't know.
We're getting consistently good stuff. Like, why mess with that?
Yeah, but yeah, I'm glad. I mean, it's cool to kind of see him have it come off a successful movie because I know The Northman. I think it lost money because it was a pretty expensive movie, at least for the studio then. And so it's good that like Nosferatu is doing well. It's already out on digital.
Which is so I saw crazy. That was pretty quick.
So crazy to me. I think it still can make it to $100 million domestic, but like, why put it out for home viewing when I think it's at 91, 92 million domestic right now, and it can still make it there. But like, why mess with that? I would have waited till it got closer to 100 million and then release it for home viewing. But the studios are still going by that whole mandate that they had during COVID. Like, if it makes a certain amount of money by this point, then they release it to video on demand and like all that. So I don't know. I think it's
actually ran.
I think there's still some gas in the tank in the theater. Like that run, I guess.
I ran into a buddy in the parking lot earlier in the week at night. I was just getting home and I ran into him and he said that he was on his way to go see Nosferatu with his girlfriend. I said, "Oh, no way. That's awesome. A, that you're going to see this because it's not a movie I would have expected him to go see. And that it's like almost a month after it came out in theaters. So clearly there's still showtimes going around." I'm like, that's awesome news.
Yeah.
So yeah.
It's had some great holds for a horror movie, especially like a period piece horror movie that doesn't necessarily appeal to like a younger crowd. So I would have, like, if I was a studio, I mean, would have just kept that momentum going before I even released it on digital. But I mean, maybe there is still room for it to make it there. It'd be like that nice little like $100 million market looks better than like, $99.5 million. It's like you want to hit that like
totally
number, that number. But yeah, I'm excited that he's going to be busy and working on stuff. So that's pretty much all that matters with that. Next we have a movie that's been in development forever. It seems like, it's called The Devil in the White City. Leonardo DiCaprio has had the rights to this book. The book is called Devil in the White City: Murder, Magic, and Madness at the Fair That Changed America. It was released in 2004. He's had the rights to this book since 2010. He was trying to make this movie with Martin Scorsese. Since then, it's gone through a lot of hoops and stuff since all that. It was almost a TV show on Hulu with Keanu Reeves, and that got done away with. But now 20th Century is interested in doing it, and apparently they had a really good meeting with DiCaprio and Martin Scorsese, and they really want to give it a full theatrical rollout should they do it. There's no script yet, but they really are invested in doing the project. And for those that don't know what it is, the book follows Dr. H.H. Holmes, a cunning serial killer believed to have murdered anywhere from 27 to 200 people at a time when the city of Chicago was enthralled with hosting the World's Columbian Exposition of 1893. So it's a period piece, very interesting, and DiCaprio has really wanted to make it forever.
So some other tidbits about that is that it's changed kind of DNA, and I think the last update that I'd heard about it is that they were going to make it a limited series and not movie format. And I was talking about this movie a few months ago in a class I was in because H.H. Holmes was brought up, and I had to sneak in. I raised my hand. I said, "Oh yeah, by the way, Martin Scorsese is developing a project about him, by the way." So at that point, it was still, I think it had life as a limited series or a TV show. Yeah. And then if you look up, I just looked at Martin Scorsese's and Leonardo DiCaprio's upcoming credits, and there's nothing about it there, which I thought was interesting. I didn't look at the IMDb page for The Devil in the White City, but it's not attached to either of those guys, which I found was interesting. And then you mentioned that there's no script yet, but yeah, this movie has come and went. When I saw posts about this project that it was revisited, a lot of comments said, "I read about this years ago." And I even remember seeing the exact same thing, like the same pictures of Martin Scorsese and Leo and the news. I'm like, this is like 5 or 6 years ago. I remember this was going around. And it kind of just faded into obscurity. It's nice to see that they brought it back from the brink, though, because I know, like you said, they really wanted to get this done. And I think that the right guys for this kind of project, I think that would be really cool.
And I know they want to do it together. And I think the projects that Scorsese was trying to do, like the Frank Sinatra biopic, which I think he wanted to do with DiCaprio, that's been kind of like in limbo because they have to get the rights from like Sinatra's daughter, and that's a big kind of hurdle to get through because like it's her dad, and like she wants to make sure that they're doing justice. And I know he wants to make another movie that was gonna have him kind of traveling all over the place as well. They're both kind of on pause, so maybe he can focus on this. I didn't know anything about H.H. Holmes until like this was in development. I never read the book either. My buddy actually read the book and loved it, so it was like a really interesting read. It does sound like a really cool project for them to do. And I love the idea of like, and they've done like kind of these kind of period things before with like Gangs of New York and Killers of the Flower Moon. So like, I think it's really good that it has some life again. And I'm glad that a studio is like, hey, like they want to give it like a full theatrical rollout. I just based on the idea, I can see it working as a limited series too, but I can't see Leonardo DiCaprio wanting to do one. I know when Hulu had it for a bit because Keanu Reeves was attached to it. DiCaprio has always maintained his position as producer because he has the rights to the book. So
right.
I know they've been wanting to do it forever, and I hope they get to do it. It sounds like a really interesting idea. It could be a really good movie and another really interesting project for the two of them to tackle. So I hope it does come together. But like you said, it's been this is years I've heard about this, like in and out of development. But like,
I'm always down for the Scorsese DiCaprio team up. So I really hope this one gets off the ground more this time, and that we end up seeing that. Next up, another great movie star who I love, but not as excited for this. I have no idea what direction.
Yeah, I have not either.
I don't know anything other than the next words I'm going to read, but Ryan Gosling's in talks for a new Star Wars. I don't know, movie or TV show? Movie, I think. I read this earlier today. Standalone. I know it's not going to be part of like the Skywalker saga, but definitely out of left field. I didn't see. I mean, one can look at Ryan Gosling's latest, filmography.
So he's like trying to have fun, I guess.
It's not completely out of left field.
He's a dad, and like he used to make like serious like dour movies, right?
Yes,
like,
he did. He had quite a dramatic
spin. And I know he talks about how like because he's a dad now, and like his kids are getting like, or I think he has more than one kid. I don't know. But he wants to make movies that they can like see, or his daughters can see. So I understand that. I'll take dour, depressed Ryan Gosling movies over some of the stuff he's choosing to do lately. Star Wars seems completely out of left field to me. This is the one that Sean Levy is doing, who directed Deadpool and Wolverine, and has done a lot of stuff with Ryan Reynolds, actually.
Right.
They said the deal is still ongoing, but if it comes together, they're going to fast track the project, and it would be the next Star Wars movie to go into production following The Mandalorian and Grogu, which wrapped filming mid-December and is going to be released May 22nd, 2026. When I read that sentence, we're going to fast track it.
If that's what everyone wants to hear.
All that sounds like is we're going to rush it so we can get it out there. And, you made a good point about Ryan. I don't see Ryan Gosling as I know he did like Blade Runner, but that's not a huge franchise by any means.
And it's also very different DNA than Star Wars.
Yeah.
For sci-fi.
So it seems so out of left field, and I don't really entirely understand it. But I do respect him as an actor and like the choices that he has. Like the fun stuff he has done. Like I actually did like The Fall Guy. It was funny, and he actually is a good comedic actor. And I thought he was great in Barbie. I know you didn't love Barbie. But like,
no, I liked him a lot in it though.
Yeah, but I think it is like when I read it, I had to like double take that it wasn't from like a random rumor website.
Yeah,
and, right. and then I was like, oh no, it's on Deadline. Like, it's legit. So I also whenever they announce a new Star Wars project, I get the feeling that like because they always announce new ones and then they die.
Most of them don't get off the ground, so
yeah,
that doesn't even mean anything at this point until there's pen to paper and I guess unless cameras start rolling, then I'll believe that it's happening because there's been so many Star Wars projects come and go and like not get off the ground. I also am not invested at all in Star Wars these days, so I wish I could be excited for the project, but I still probably wouldn't even watch it, even though I love Ryan Gosling. So it's
and like that was a good. I'm glad you said that because like I'm wondering what actor or actress can make me excited to be invested in Star Wars again. The shows aren't necessarily bad. Like I've watched The Mandalorian and that's good.
Yeah, I watched the first season. I liked it, but
like it's such a like concept that I feel like it's so done now, and like it's just I'm like, if you can make something good out of it, like my favorite of the new ones that they done was Rogue One because it was the most
Rogue One is sick.
Yeah, and like they went with having like new characters, even though Darth Vader appeared in it, and because it is like a prequel to what
one of the best Star Wars scenes of all time is his appearance in that movie.
Yeah, so like I like that they took a chance and like, oh, let's do something with new characters, and I think that's always been their issue is like, do we connect it to the Skywalker saga or do we just go completely new? And I think that's more of a fan issue too. I think fans say they want something new, but they really don't. Because they have the most fickle fans ever, the most like actually meanest fans ever. Their fans are very interesting, to say the least. But yeah, I don't know what can get me excited for the franchise again. I didn't love the sequel
Maybe
trilogy at all.
you know what would
Really.
make me excited about Star Wars is if Disney sells it. Then I would be interested in
Oh,
watching it.
they would never. They would never.
They're gonna have to part ways with something eventually. They have too much
Yeah.
IP and they keep making crappy projects. But yeah, I don't know. Until it loses the money, but they've lost money. I don't know. We'll see. But no, it's not going to take Ryan Gosling to get me in a theater to watch a Star Wars project. That's for sure. But I love
my
him.
friend. My friend heard that story and was like, "Does he owe someone some money?" I was like, "Oh, that sounds like is that why he's doing it?" It sounds like one of those things. It's just a weird. Like I don't even think it would be on his radar. But I'm. But I mean, he might just be in a different career.
I think you're right. I think he's in a different era of his career, and he's got kids, and that's might be influencing his decisions and the roles that he takes, and that's completely understandable. It's not like he'd be the first person to do that. And
I mean, it reminds me of Jake Gyllenhaal, who's like not really done a lot of serious stuff lately either. Like he's done like
that's
Roadhouse.
They're at similar points in their career, honestly.
And I think they're around the same age. Like,
yeah, they are.
I mean, and they both were in like very dour, sad movies early in their career too.
They started young. They had their like somber, dramatic early career, and
they used to chase Oscars.
Yeah,
not so much anymore.
Now they're a little older and less serious in what they take. I think Gyllenhaal had a drought for a while though that I was not into anything he was making, but he's come around. And I heard he went MCU too for a little bit.
Yeah, and I heard that I haven't watched the show, but I heard Presumed Innocent on Apple TV Plus.
I've heard good things about that too. Yeah.
But yeah, it just reminds me of like, I mean, I feel like certain actors get to a point like they want to stop chasing awards and acclaim like that, especially when you don't give them awards. Jake Gyllenhaal was trying to get it. I don't want to say he was trying to get an Oscar, but he was doing his best. And Ryan Gosling, and I think Amy Adams is in that road too, where she's like, "Fuck it, I'm just gonna make what I want." At this point,
and her next movie looks insane.
Yeah, it's just like, and I think that's probably, I think they all deserve that kind of period. But yeah,
agreed.
There's like that. There's that. So, what we got next?
We got Sonic 4 gets a release date, which not surprised at all. This has been one of the most like underdog trilogies of like modern times.
They have no business being as good as they are.
Yeah, and
they've gotten better.
Goodwill. Yeah, I haven't seen a single one, but I hear good
things. You're like, I don't want to.
And I don't blame them for making a fourth. They got a winning strategy, whatever studio was making those. So good for them.
Yeah, that's Paramount Pictures. They actually announced Sonic 4 initially right before Sonic 3 opened, but they didn't announce when it was going to open. But now it's dated for March 19th, 2027. That's a week before the Easter holiday. So that is a week before a pretty big weekend for movies. And in case you're wondering why we're getting Sonic 4, Sonic 3 recently became the highest grossing installment in the franchise. It's made $218.8 million domestic and $425 million worldwide. The entire Sega branded feature franchise has made $1.1 billion globally across 3 movies so far. So that's why you're getting them.
Yeah, there you go.
I had no idea until the third one. I didn't know Jeff Fowler. I was like, because I didn't know what else he had done. But I guess Jeff Fowler was a creative designer on Shadow the Hedgehog, the video game. So it makes sense that these movies work, I think, because Jeff Fowler has a love for the brand and the IP and understands it. And they've low-key become like the best video game adaptation. I mean, I can't think of what else there is, but I think
consistently profitable and well received for sure.
Yeah. And I feel we were saying he understands the lore, like it's really deep and complicated, but he does. He understands like what.
Well, no, you definitely got to appeal to the video game audience that's coming to see these movies, and I would say that Sonic has lore to it. Silly as it might seem, probably way deeper than I would get. I don't know how deep it would be, but there would be things that some of the Sonic has been a thing since before I was even around.
Yeah,
so
I mean, I grew up playing it.
It's across multiple
generations, like
platforms,
my brother generations.
And video game consoles. So obviously, you can sneak in a lot of stuff and like it would appeal to probably a pretty broad range of audience goers, from kids all the way to adults that have grew up playing the games and are going to get some of those older references, I'm sure. Again, I haven't seen them, so I don't know what kind of stuff is snuck into those movies. And I mean, you got a great Jim Carrey villainous performance, wacky Jim Carrey. Who's not going to go see that?
Yeah, and it makes me wonder because he's pretty much retired other than these movies, and he is a big part of why they worked. He's hilarious, and the last one especially. He played two characters and seamless and was funny. I just wonder how much they can milk him coming back. If he is a big part of, I think, of why they've been successful. But what they did with the last one is it focused more on the kind of Sonic characters rather than the human characters, which is fine. I think once you get to 3 movies, you don't have to blend the human characters in as much as you need to. I did respect the fact that it was, at least across the first 2 movies, it did a good job of balancing like the kind of CG characters with the human characters and making it feel seamless. And they have a surprising amount of heart too. Like they like I said, they have no business being as good as they are. They're all fresh on Rotten Tomatoes, which is rare for video game adaptations. And they've all been successful. And like, so I get why Paramount wants to keep going. And there's also room, like they talked, we hate the word universe, but they have talked about, they already did a Knuckles spinoff show on Paramount Plus. That I think there is room to do one for Shadow. I think they want to keep Keanu Reeves around because he was actually some of his best work actually was voicing that character. I know that might sound silly, but his voice work was pretty good. There's room to expand it. I think that's why they want to keep it going. So if they can keep it going and like make it as good as it has been, I don't see why not. Keep going. Yeah, I don't mind it. There's definitely and honestly, if you do get a chance to watch them, they are fun. They're really easy, breezy movies. They don't really demand much of your brain. So you're fine.
That could be it.
Yeah. Next we have this was one we were going to do last week, but we didn't have time to do it. Tom Holland is going to be in an adaptation of a John Grisham book called The Partner. This feels so old school because like John Grisham books haven't been adapted into movies in a really long time. This was like a big deal in the 90s when like Tom Cruise was in The Firm, Tommy Lee Jones and Susan Sarandon were in The Client. Time to Kill was a big ensemble movie with Matthew McConaughey and Sandra Bullock, Samuel L. Jackson, Kevin Spacey. I love that movie too. The Rainmaker had like Matt Damon, so this was like a lot of this was a bigger deal than this was like a kind of like a thing from like another time almost.
This is another one I don't see on his filmography on IMDb, so it must be breaking news. But yeah, I saw John Grisham. I thought, oh wow, that's a name, an author I haven't seen adapted in a minute.
Yeah, but the person, Graham Moore, who wrote The Imitation Game, is writing the script.
Ooh, love The Imitation Game.
And The Partner focuses on Patrick Lanigan, a young partner in a white shoe Biloxi law firm who fakes his own death in a burning car. He's left behind a wife, newborn daughter, and a secret. What he's actually done is fake his death to create a template for a new life by stealing $90 million from a client of his crooked law firm. He finds happiness and love in South America. When the client who worked so hard to defraud the government finds the money is missing from his offshore accounts, he becomes determined to hunt down the lawyer he doesn't believe is dead. That leads the attorney to have to turn himself into the FBI and face up to his wife, child, and the life he left behind. That sounds like 4 plots in one movie.
That is huge. That should be across a couple movies.
Yeah. Also sounds very darkish for Tom Holland, who's going to be playing the lead. But yeah, pretty cool.
And in addition to that, it was just announced that he will be playing the lead character in Nolan's The Odyssey, which we knew that he was cast. But so presumably that means he's playing Odysseus, because I've only seen it written as the lead.
Yeah.
The lead, of course, will be Odysseus, I'm sure. I mean, maybe. That was news that I wasn't pumped to read, honestly. I know we kind of got into a little bit of discussion on our previous news episode about Tom Holland, but just on that note alone, him being the lead, like, what do you think about that? Expected, unexpected? Are you cool with it?
I thought he was the co-lead too when he got announced. I thought Matt Damon was supposed to be, because he got announced first. I thought he was supposed to be the lead. But who knows? I mean, I guess we're all been speculating what we think who's going to do what. Right. John Berthal just got cast in this movie too.
I'm glad you brought that up.
Which I forgot to put in our notes here. But
I think he would have been a great lead role too. But
someone wrote online, they're like, this is about to be the best 7 minutes of screen time of John Berthal's life, which is kind of funny because if you would probably, we don't know how big the part's going to be, but like you would show up for 7 minutes for Christopher Nolan, like wouldn't matter. But how do you feel about him? I mean, this is more of a matter of like what Tom Holland can handle. And I can't, now that we know what the project is, I'm trying to imagine most of these people I didn't mention this last week, but most of these people who are casting it in some of these roles, and I can maybe see some, but then others I'm like, I don't know where they would fit, who they would exactly play. I guess it's like in Christopher Nolan we trust, but like, where do you kind of stand on, like, now that you know what the project is, and now, like, I mean, how do you feel about him being the lead, and like, and then I guess like who any of these people could possibly like be portraying in the movie now?
Yeah, I have no idea who's going to be playing what. Tom wasn't going to be my pick for lead. Just, I think his age, I guess he'll be 30 at the time this movie comes out, and maybe that's an appropriate age for Odysseus. I just pictured somebody a little bit older, more mature, and maybe to have led more movies like this. Like, I still think, even though Tom Holland is 2 years older than me, I just don't look at him as like that strong leading man type. He's very much just seemed like very youthful and and he's known for playing a teenager, right? So that's going to be hard to wrap around. And when I see actors like Matt Damon and John Bernthal, who are probably a little bit older than the ideal Odysseus age at the time that this movie is taking place, like, yeah, that's not perfect either, but they much more fit the grain of that
what that
role.
is.
So I was just kind of rooting that it was going to be one of them. But anyway, Christopher Nolan, you know, he doesn't miss. I'm sure he sees something in Tom Holland's performance and audition that thinks he can lead this movie. So I'm going to put my faith and trust in him. It's not what I expected. Maybe this will be the movie that really puts me on to Tom Holland. It could be a big not breakout, but like a chance for him to prove his chops, because he's had a couple opportunities and they weren't really the movies, I don't think, that allowed him to showcase his best talent. So maybe this will be the one. Yeah. Anyway, it's going to be a Nolan movie about, you know, a swords and sandals epic.
So you're all in.
About the Odyssey. I'm all in anyway. It's just whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's interesting too, because like you said that he looks very youthful, and like he still does, even though they try to do their best. Like he just did a photo spread for Men's Health, and he's ripped. Like he is in great shape.
Oh, good. Okay.
But he looks like it's the face. I mean, he just looks like a kid still, and I think that has a lot to. And that should. I mean, that's not his fault. I mean, that he has like a youthful.
But there is a look in Hollywood, right? Like, this is a factor that goes into casting and character, and you got to have the look for certain roles. And I can't see it. And this is a journey that's going to take place over this character 10 years of their life. So, like, you know, there will probably be effects used to portray that, and makeup and stuff like that to enhance his age. But
yeah, we'll see how it goes.
We'll see how it goes.
By the way, back in the day, John Grisham was getting $8 million for the movie rights to his books back in the day.
Wow.
Did not realize that. And also, this movie is set up as he has a Tom Holland has a production company called Billy 17, and this is where this movie is being set up. He's actually lining up a bunch of projects there that he's running with his brother Harry Holland and another guy named Will South. So he's trying to develop a lot of projects for himself and for other performers too. So that's actually pretty cool.
Okay.
But yeah, I used to love John Grisham movies back in the day. It does feel like a time forgotten though.
Yeah,
like,
definitely.
Adult mid-budget thrillers don't really come out anymore like that.
If you still walk through an airport, John Grisham books are all over the place.
Yeah, and honestly, A Time to Kill, I love that movie. I think it deserves a lot more attention. It did well. It wasn't like it was a flop or anything, and it was critically well received mostly. But it is so much stronger, I think, than people actually give it credit for. Like, I feel like gutted by the end of it because there's so much that happens in it.
Matthew McConaughey's monologue at the end there is great.
Yeah, that rips me out like my whole heart. I'm like that you feel like you're there as he's saying it. So, I'm looking forward to, like, I think we should also bring back mid-budget adult thrillers like this, because they were a really big part of the industry at one point. I think the idea is to like send them to streaming, but like there's a place for them theatrically too. So hopefully this brings about another little resurgence of that. I guess now we got some trailers. Horror movies again. They're both, it feels like that's all we've covered trailer wise.
I guess the winner is becoming the horror movie, spot. But two trailers that I didn't know anything about. I saw that they had both dropped and didn't really rush to go look at them. I knew I'd probably see them. both really surprised me and both look really smart. But let's start with Drop. I couldn't tell you anything about it other than what I just watched on the trailer.
So I saw this trailer when I saw Wolfman last week. So I saw it before it was online, and I had no idea that this movie was even coming out. And when the trailer came on, I was like, "What is this even? What is this movie?" And as it played in the theater, like our theater wasn't really packed for Wolfman because it didn't really do that well, but it was a decent size for a Thursday night.
Right.
The reaction to the trailer was really good. Like the way the people in the theater reacted to it. I think that is the kind of reaction you want to a trailer like that.
Yes.
And honestly, I'll just read the premise really quick. Violet is a widowed mother on her first date in years. She arrives at an upscale restaurant where she is relieved that her date Henry is more charming and handsome than she expected. But their chemistry begins to curdle as Violet begins being irritated and then terrorized by a series of anonymous drops to her phone. She is instructed to tell nobody and follow instructions, or the hooded figure she sees on her home security cameras will kill Violet's young son and babysitting sister. Violet must do exactly as directed, or everyone she loves will die. Her unseen tormentor's final directive is for her to kill her date, Henry.
Yeah, which is a wicked premise.
Well, yeah, I mean, I hope it holds together because it sounds like it's a really big hook, but like, can the hook work for a whole runtime? But it looks thrilling. It looks fun. It looks smart. Christopher Landon did it, who did Happy Death Day, and
right.
And also was like a producer on Hard Eyes. We talked about that last week.
Right. Yep.
But yeah, what did you think about the overall trailer? I thought it was good.
I thought the trailer was
even though it was a little long. I thought
little long, definitely showed too much from the inevitable conclusion of this, like the climax of that movie. We see some things that narratively are obviously taking place near the end, and that just is annoying. Like nothing more than the first 20-25 minutes of this movie needed to be in the trailer for it to be convincing, and they really messed that up by showing too much. Nothing drastic, which I'm okay with, but
I think they're like showing the sister get attacked in the house, and like that seems like that will be towards the end.
Nothing in that house needs to be shown other than maybe the killer doing the wave in the
that actually gave me chills when I saw in the theater.
That was pretty cool.
The theater, that was like, ugh.
I'm also totally perplexed that the actor that's playing the date, Brandon Sklenar, isn't Scott Eastwood. I thought for sure that was Scott Eastwood.
He does. He looks like him.
He looks a lot like Scott Eastwood. Yeah, so I was like, I'm just finding that out now.
He plays Atlas Corrigan in It Ends With Us. He's probably very happy not to be involved with all that. Is
he the other?
He's the one that not being sued by Blake Lively.
Right. Okay, good for him. Dodge a bullet there. I really thought the trailer was cool, and it's Blumhouse too, which looks like one of their stronger entries.
Yeah, that trailer, it sold the movie really well. I do agree with you though. We could have done with most of the stuff in the restaurant, and like I said, the only thing they could have shown from inside the house was the image of the guy with the ski mask on from her phone. That's probably all we need to see from the house, and everything else could have been like just the text messages she's getting back and forth at the restaurant. And I think that would have been enough to sell it.
I think the implementation, like the airdrops, I don't know if that's part of the title, like not being airdrop, if that's like an Apple exclusive feature, because like clearly that's how I refer to what's happening to her phone is airdrops. Like somebody,
it's airdrop.
Yeah. But the inclusion of like real life memes as those airdrops, I think was really smart. Something we don't see in movies like that. Like those are memes that anybody has seen on the internet, can recognize, and they're cleverly used, like with like the killer editing them and putting in his own text on a meme format that people have seen before. I don't think I've seen that. It's cool enough when you have like technology in a movie like that exists in the real world, like an airdrop, like that being utilized in the plot. Like that's just kind of cool. Or like I like the feature nowadays when a character is texting while they're walking and their text is showing up on screen. Like that's just an efficient way, other than like having the camera hover over a cell phone and you have to read the message. Like that's a cool innovation, I guess, to like technology in movies. So I think the use of the meme was kind of like something similar to that. I thought that was just clever and like a missed opportunity if not used here. So that was cool. Yeah, the trailer was great.
Yeah, I was overthinking a lot when I was watching because I was like, okay, so if it's an airdrop, then it's someone in the restaurant because it has to be close, right? And then I was like, then why do they want to kill Henry? Then I'm like, wait, just go see the movie, guys. Like,
Yeah,
what's
exactly.
going on.
There's probably some movie logic to explain it all, right?
Yeah, and that's why I said, like, it's a really good hook, and I hope it can actually satisfy based on like that one hook, because like it could fall apart if it doesn't make sense. But it looks really good, and I had no idea this was coming out, so that was another surprise from it too. And it looks really good, and it opens on April 11th. And the next one is a horror comedy called Hell of a Summer, written and directed by Finn Wolfhard, who you will know from Stranger Things.
Yep.
And I think it's his writing partner. I think it's Billy Burke. This actually premiered at the Toronto Film Festival in 2023 and finally got distribution from Neon. Neon has been like releasing all these buzzy horror movies a lot. They did Longlegs, and they seem to really want to get behind these kind of movies, which is really cool.
I was gonna say Neon as a studio has won the Palme d'Or 5 years in a row at Cannes Film Festival too. So they're on a hot streak.
Are they like the new A24? I mean, in their own.
They're definitely the biggest competitor, and I think that the hat tips in either studio's direction seems like with every year.
But yeah, this is a horror comedy that stars Fred Hechinger, who was on White Lotus. He was also in Gladiator 2. And the premise is, as the counselors are getting Camp Pineway ready the night before the campers arrive, a mass killer begins killing the staff. Like, it looks like, I don't know if you've ever seen Sleepaway Camp. It kind of has that same vibe. That movie's actually pretty fun.
But I did used to, when I don't know if HMV was ever a movie store on the West Coast in the last like couple decades, but growing up, that was like the movie store in my town. And when I was a kid, when I would find myself in the mall, like young, Sleepaway Camp was always like the movies I would somehow find and pick up and like just stare at all like the blood and the gore on the back. So I'm familiar with the aesthetic only from that, and it's always stuck in my mind. And I agree. It was, however, giving me more like Friday the 13th vibes, because that's like the Sleepaway Camp movie that I have seen. But
so do you not? I'm just curious. So you know a lot about Sleepaway Camp, the first one?
Not much at all. Is it like a parody movie?
No, it's a legit slasher movie, and that's so exciting that you don't know much about it, because it has a
anniversary this year
ending. Oh no, it doesn't. It doesn't. It has a really good ending. It's worth it just for like how it wraps up. It's a cheesy 80s horror movie.
That's the vibe I get from it. But sometimes
which is fun. Yeah, in its own right. But like the twist is like, I was like, and thankfully when I saw it for the first time, I didn't know what the
I don't know. It's never been ruined for me.
So never look it up unless you want to. I think it came out in 83, so we don't. I mean, we would just have to deep dive it or something, or maybe we just do it for Tales of Horror this year.
Oh, good idea. Yeah, let's bookmark that. That'd be great. But
yeah, it's already a fun, campy like 80s horror movie. But then by the time it gets to like a big reveal at the end, I was like, didn't see that coming, and it's what it's known for. But yeah, I'm so glad that you haven't been exposed to that. So that'll be fun when we actually do cover it.
Let's do it, because I'd love to. Because again, that's a movie that's always intrigued me that I've just never really come across. Don't ever talk to anybody about that movie or that series. I know there's like 3 of them, right?
Yeah, I think there might be more. Or it could be only 3.
I gotta admit, I was proved wrong by this trailer. I mean, I guess I shouldn't jump too far ahead because the movie's not come out, but I only watched this because you sent it to me as an idea to cover. And I saw, Hell of a Summer, Neon, directed and written by Finn Wolfhard, co-written and co-directed. And I immediately thought, no way is this going to look remotely good. It's like, I like Finn Wolfhard's character in Stranger Things and particularly his role in it, I think is like when he's at his strongest. I do like him as, I think he's Richie. But I look at him as like this youngster who's like had a lot of great success as like a young actor who maybe got his hands on some money and someone put him in a director's chair and he thought he could make something. And I instantly thought, okay, here's like a kid who's like way too young to think he knows anything about directing. And I thought this is going to be like garbage, but that was a really well-made trailer.
Yeah,
we'll see how the movie turns out. So I was wrong. I went in with a bias and I watched it. I was like, that was a good, nothing like crazy original, but it's a blend enough of different movies that I think it can work. It reminded me of, it was like Bodies meets Friday the 13th.
Which I also really liked a lot.
I was really good. Let down in theaters, but I think I would appreciate it more on rewatch now that I know what to expect. It just didn't. It was marketed more of a horror mystery than it really was, and it was really comedy heavy. And anyway, I think I can appreciate that now. But this movie leans into that, or the trailer leans into that, and I think there was some good like topical like whatever gen we're in now, like humor that I got behind, and the cast looks like they're funny and have good chemistry. There was a good one-liners. Like I liked the trailer. I'm not gonna lie. I wouldn't have initially thought that I would have, but I did.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty good too. It opens on April 18th, and actually he did an interview before, like during, I think it was during the Toronto Film Festival, and he kind of approached him as a 19, 20-year-old, like, hey, can I get money for this? And they kind of they're like, no. Like he was trying to raise he was trying to raise money for it, even though he had the background of having Stranger Things under his belt and it under his belt. They just thought the premise seemed too ridiculous, and then like eventually he convinced them, and like he said the product proved itself. So I think that's really cool. And now he's put himself in a position, him and that same guy are going to be writing a remake of Idle Hands, which is like a cult classic movie from 1999 that didn't make a lot of money in theaters then, but it has become a cult classic in the years since it was released. So it looks like he's trying to carve out kind of a second act, not even second act, he's young, but like another career as like a writer, director, as Stranger Things is wrapping up. So that pretty good for him. That's awesome.
Yeah, that is awesome.
I think he said something that I thought was really cool, that he said that how he convinced them to like kind of fund the movie is that he was like, I don't think filmmaking should be defined by age. So like if he is writing for
a good point,
a certain demographic, right? If he's writing for people that will understand his voice, then like the way he would write things as a 19, 20-year-old would make sense to the demographic he's selling it to. So I totally agree with that statement. That you should not look at someone and be like, oh, you're young, you don't know anything about filmmaking, because
I'm guilty of that.
Yeah,
you proved me wrong. I like
if you walk to your office and be like, no, I'm good, I'm not gonna fund your movie.
Yeah. So it just goes to show, don't judge a book by its cover. I did not would have guessed that film. I guess I haven't really kept up with Finn Wolfhard in the last little bit. I haven't watched the last 2 seasons of Stranger Things. I think I kind of associated him as being much younger than he really is. Like people grow up.
They are like frozen at that age.
Sometimes I forget like people age, even though I might not have seen them. And so anyway, definitely competent, I think, and good for him for venturing out, trying out directing and writing, and all the best to him, because this movie looked entertaining. I really hope that it's not a case of like trailer being better than the movie. I think it could work. So yeah, that's awesome. So anyway, I shouldn't judge. I'm just judgy sometimes. But
I mean, I have that.
It was really brief. It's not like I sat here and thought this is gonna suck. I just thought, no way, it's gonna be good.
You're like, why did you send me this? I don't want to look at it.
Pleasant surprise.
All right. Now we got box office predictions. We can talk about what we're doing it for Presence this week. It's a horror film directed by Steven Soderbergh. Actually has really good reviews so far. 88% on Rotten Tomatoes. It seems like it is going to be one of those like horror movies that like critics might like and regular people might give it like a D cinema score. We'll see. I would be surprised if that happens. And honestly, the premise is like pretty much the family moves to a suburban house and becomes convinced they're not alone. I guess the hook for this movie is that the camera is kind of the ghost, like the presence. So like how it's being shot by Soderbergh is like almost like he's the ghost, and that's the point of view. You're seeing things from the point of view of the ghost rather than from the actual actors, which I think is pretty cool.
Which is like, how has this not been done yet? That is such a great, intriguing premise. Yeah.
I guess we should talk about last week predictions. I overshot Wolfman. Jackson did not. He actually was pretty much almost spot on. Wolfman opened to $10.4 million, which was below expectations. I think I said 17 or 18.
I had you written down as 18, and I went with 11, 18, which I initially thought might have been too low, and lo and behold,
I did too. I was like, dude, Jackson, why are you going so low? And I was like, yep, you were right to go low. So my bad. I lost week 1, but here we are at week 2. not a lot to compare presents to. Now, keep in mind this is a smaller horror movie release. This is not like one of those kind of like big budget ones. It's released by Neon, though, another Neon horror movie. And predictions right now have it at $7 million for its opening weekend. And I don't know what I'm going to go with at this point.
Your turn to lead. I'm glad I don't have this pressure. I have no idea either. I believe in you.
All right, I'm going to undershot it this time and see what happens. I'm going to go with 6.5.
6.5. Damn. Okay. I'm going to go with the 0.5 and everything, eh? Okay. I'm going to go a little higher. I don't know why. I'm thinking as an average, like as a casual moviegoer, I don't know
who's interested in it.
Who's interested. I think this is awesome. I know we're excited for this, but like, I'm not going to lie. It doesn't seem, it's not like anything Soderbergh's done. I don't know what the name Steven Soderbergh means, like the average film goer.
I think definitely not what it meant back in the day when he was doing like the Ocean's movies and Traffic and Aaron Brockovich.
It's a long time since he was doing that. Like since he's been a big, I know he's a big name in Hollywood, but like, with the I don't
making
really know
hit movies.
Hit movies. Like this isn't a name and a type of movie. I don't think that people are rushing to go see from him, other than like people that know his work and are interested in. Trailer was really cool, and it's a novel kind of plot, but I for some reason my instincts are telling me go a little higher, so I'm gonna go just a shy 2 million above you and go 8.5, and maybe I'll regret that, but
why don't you not?
We'll see.
You're definitely good. Because I was like trying to figure out too while I was doing this, I was like, how many people are really outside of us and like horror niche cinephiles know about it? I haven't heard any regular person talk about it at all, so
but
I almost forgot it came out.
7. Yeah, I forgot it was coming out this early too.
But yeah, I'll go with 6.5. You lowballed it last week. I'll see if that works out for me this week.
Yeah, exactly. you see how that goes. I just think 7 is so low, but I get the logistics. But anyway, we'll see. And by this time next week, I'll probably have seen Wolfman, which I tried to see last week, didn't work out. So maybe we'll be able to talk about a couple horror movies next week. That'd be pretty cool.
For sure. And then I know we have an anniversary episode for Higher Learning coming up as well. And that'll get us through this January little hump. The January guys for anniversaries was pretty rough. There was like nothing on that list that looked appealing. Oh, and I got a message from someone that wants to know what we were gonna do for guests for the anniversary episodes. I haven't really talked to like Jackson about how we're gonna approach the guest thing. There are certain people who have been on the show a few times that I've just reached out and asked. Like Mark has already asked about Scream 3 next month. Then that'll probably be one that we do because it turns 25. So like that'll be one that will happen. I don't know how we're gonna reach out for guests when it comes to anniversaries. Sometimes it's cool for us to just do them one-on-one, especially when it's in a movie that you have experienced for the first time, and makes it a little better when there's not like another person there or two people there to also kind of get involved in that. But we definitely want to have guests on more
for sure.
And I think to answer your question, it'll just be based on the movie. If it's something that's really fun and silly, I think that might have room to have guests on more than something that's a little bit more like, hey, like I want to like share this kind of one-on-one experience,
case by case basis for sure.
Yeah. But we definitely aren't opposed to having more guests on. It's just it depends on the movie, and we'll kind of see. And then a lot of times you guys reach out. I know JC, even though he's on a break, has reached out to me about some movies like way down the line this year. So there's a lot of that, but we definitely want more guests on, and that will be happening. It just depends on the film. And also we are going to have more guests on too. Like we want to do like a more interview style thing too. So talk to like independent filmmakers, other people that do stuff like this, other YouTubers. That's going to be coming up throughout the year too. So there'll be a lot more opportunities for guests to be on, but in different ways that just don't involve the anniversary episodes are the spinoff. So just keep that in mind. But also, if you have a good idea and you want to be on for something, if you have like a movie you really want to discuss, like definitely send us a message, because more than likely we'd be open to it and we would do it. So it really just depends. But yeah, I guess that's episode 220. What are we at?
224. 224.
Well, 224. Wow, we're gonna be at 250 before we know it. And that it wraps up a very quick news episode. We got a decent amount of stuff in a pretty limited amount of time. So thank you for listening to the latest in industry news. As always, if you want to listen to Back to the Blockbuster, you can listen to us wherever you get your podcasts, whether it's Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Good Pods. All very great. We want you to listen to us everywhere, but also listen to us on the Playlist Studio app, which you can get in the iOS store or Google Play Store. Wherever you listen to us, it's very beneficial to us. So wherever you're comfortable, we personally don't care. But if you want to give Playlists a leg up because they're really good to us, I'm sure they would greatly appreciate it if you download their app as well. You can also subscribe to our YouTube channel where you can find at Back to the Blockbuster. We're going to be doing a lot more stuff on that. We were going to do some stuff for that tonight, but we're both very tired. I've been up since 5 o'clock in the morning my time because of the Oscar nominations, and Jackson has an early day tomorrow, and he's also 4 hours ahead. So, but we will get those reels and stuff in to add to the YouTube page to make it a little bit more vibrant, a little bit more than just the episodes just being posted on there as audio. We're gonna have a lot more video content for you very, very soon. Jackson, as always, thanks for staying up. Thanks for getting this episode in, and thanks for always being a lively participant in the conversation. That's another episode of Back to the Blockbuster all wrapped up. I'm not sure what is going to be our next episode yet. We have to discuss it, but
more to come. That's for sure.
More to come, and apparently, probably a lot more news because news has been really good lately. So
yes, it has.
So yeah, thank you for listening, guys, and until next time, peace out.
Catch you later.